This is Lightning Power Lunch on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
We get right into it. We've got an hour, and boy, we want all of it to us and to our audience here on the show. Glad you're with us. Last show, I think, of the year is kind of what we're being told by the higher-ups.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting for the exit interviews, which we aren't in the exit interviews, the interviews with the media before the players exit stage left and Julian. So we got that today. Steve is efforting hard to replay the Julian BriseBois portion of the press conference. But we can kind of maybe we shouldn't get into it too much because we should let Julian speak in his own words and maybe react to that. But a couple things right off the bat. Suffice it to say, the Lightning had a lot of injuries in the series. Some were sustained during the series. Some players carried into the series. We got the story on Oliver Bjorkstrand, which we had heard rumblings about this, Greg, but he had compartment syndrome, which is a very, very serious medical condition that my longtime friend John Walton got under way different circumstances. The radio voice of the Caps, he was having surgery for colon cancer. That went fine last summer, but he developed compartment syndrome, a very severe case of it in one of his legs. He almost lost his leg. And I mean, when we saw the Caps early this season twice, he was still walking with a pretty significant limp. And so for an athlete, the athlete is younger than John Walton, right? But you're still having, your leg. I think the procedure is to cut open the leg to release the blood. You're basically having blood built up. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not an easy recovery. But according to Julian, Oliver is going to be fine for next year. So we wish him the best. That is a very scary thing to happen. It sounded like it happened after the Lightning played Detroit on a Friday night. These players, they get like a Charlie horse or a bruise or something, and it turns into a complication. Right. So anyway, that's the story on Bjorkstrand. That had nothing to do with the series. Cirelli had an MCL sprain in game 1. That's going to affect his ability to move around the ice. He definitely gamed it out. And by the way, Cirelli also named a Selke finalist. So congratulations to him, along with 2 Panthers, Barkov and Reinhart. So the three players were the top 3 basically in the voting. So good for Cirelli. I think it's the first time he's been a finalist, although maybe long overdue. So I mean, Cirelli and Bjorkstrand were just 2 of the players. Kucherov had an injury that he was playing with through the end of the regular season. Yanni Gourde had an injury. Hedman had an injury. Chernak had an injury. Nick Paul had an injury. They were able to play through them, but they were definitely, even from the start of the playoffs, dealing with things that are going to slow them down. So, thank you, Steve. Cirelli's the first Lightning player named a Selke final. So it's not only the first time for him, it's the first time for any Lightning player.
There was also some news about Isaac Howard that we'll let maybe Julian...
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Steve can tell us. I'm not sure we're going to do the full session because I was there and then I needed to get home to do the show with you.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know when Julian was coming, so I missed the Julian live. I wasn't there. I don't know how long it is. It may be too long for us to play the whole thing, but we can certainly kind of play his intro statement and maybe some of the highlights. That's Steve's department.
It's always one of the more interesting days of the year. It's a disappointing one because it means your team is out of the playoff run, but you get to see what these guys did battle through.
Yeah.
And, you get a chance to talk to these guys afterwards, and maybe they open up a little bit more. We have a question here from Bolts fan Syracuse while we wait for the Julian sound, and I thought this was interesting just because of the player. She said, Vassie's exit interview was sad. His statement that Florida was a joy to watch and then followed it with, we used to be like that in 2019. I could feel the heartbreak. I fear for big changes upcoming given the overall tone of those interviews. Do you think Gonsalves and Glendening will be given contracts, as it seems our prospects are going elsewhere? I'm not sure we use our draft picks anyway. From Syracuse, I would love to see Crozier full-time here, and I think Finley has size that could be advantageous.
So she had a lot in that tweet.
Yeah.
or post. So thank you, Bolts fan Syracuse. By the way, tough way to end for Syracuse. They got swept by Rochester. Rochester's a good team, though, in the AHL this year, and they got reinforcements from Buffalo, which helped in that series. The reinforcements basically from the Lightning, Connor Geekie, and Crozier came back, but Crozier played in all 3 games in the series. So Rochester is a pretty loaded team, and we see that sometimes in the AHL playoffs. If the parent team is eliminated, you can get some NHL guys basically playing for you in the playoffs. So a couple of things. I was not there for the Vasilevsky interview. I did read some of the sound. I think he was very complimentary of Florida, as we were very complimentary of Florida yesterday. And, don't take it from us, take it from him.
Yeah, right.
They are playing at a championship level. I think what he was saying is, when the Lightning were winning championships, that's the level they were playing at.
Yeah.
They did not play at that level in the series. We can kind of go through and say, well, they were close. Some of the games were close. I mean, some of the games weren't that close. Florida looks great right now. And, as somebody who is a goaltender, he can appreciate really high-level defense, right? Yeah. So I think that's where that comes from. Again, we are going to hear from Julian, but basically from what I can tell, interpreting what he said, big changes are not coming. I mean, he's basically saying we have a very, very good team. We happen to lose the series. So for Bolts fan Syracuse, who's concerned that big changes are coming, I'm not sure that they are. There are some fans that want big changes. We heard from some of those fans yesterday. They may not be happy with what Julian
Did you read
is
Josh
going to be
Yohe's
saying.
Comments? Now look,
I didn't read the article.
Guy's not a Lightning loyalist at all, and he tends to kind of focus on Pittsburgh because that's his team he covers. But he did through his 10 bullet points basically, and it was the Panthers are basically still the team to beat, and the Lightning's window has shut.
Yeah, well, based on what he watched in the series, I mean, I can't argue with his takeaway, but he didn't watch the Lightning through the regular season.
He didn't. I'll get into some of the points because I think maybe you can agree with some. Maybe you'd say I disagree with some. It's just interesting hearing a different perspective. So I think you're going to see a lot of this analysis come out. Tampa Bay on X says, what would you like to see happen in the offseason? Any moves that could be made in regards to players' personnel?
So let me just circle back. This is a good segue because we didn't actually finish talking about what Bolts fan Syracuse had in there, which was a Tampa Bay asked the same question. So Gonçalves is a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. I believe the Lightning are going to give him a qualifying offer. He is going to be back at some dollar amount. I don't know about Glendening. He's a UFA. He's 36 years old. They may look in another direction. I mean, I'm not sure if Julian was actually asked specifically about Glendening. I do not know, based on kind of the tone of Julian's press conference, if other changes are going to be happening, honestly. And again, we're going to be playing this, but essentially, remember that pie chart that I was talking about yesterday, right? Like how much would happen in the series, and maybe I should add a fourth slice of pie, but I said basically Florida's excellence, the injuries, which had a factor, and we learned there were more than we even knew about, and he can make a determination how much that affected the Lightning's quality of play in the series, and kind of what the Lightning were able to do and not able to do. And maybe the fourth kind of piece of the pie is just what we saw in the series was not indicative of how the team played during the regular season. In other words, they kind of were just off, and it happened to come against. So one pie chart might be, there's some structural stuff here or personnel stuff that we need to tweak. A separate category would be, we really like the makeup of our team based on what we saw in the regular season. And some of this was just it didn't come together for us. That happens in a playoff series sometimes when you're looking at a short playoff series. So, I mean, again, it's Julian's job to kind of figure out how much weight to give each of those different categories. And based on what he said, he is leaning into the fact that he really likes the Lightning's team. That's what I heard from him.
Yeah.
He mentioned we finished the league first in offense. We finished the league fourth in defense. We finished fifth in power play. We finished sixth in penalty killing. And he had other data that he gave about like how rare that is for a team in the regular season to finish that high in those four very, very important metrics. It did not translate into the playoffs. Why? That's the question. Why? And sometimes the why is just like, you were a little bit off.
Yeah.
And the other team, this is the other part of it, the other team wasn't. The other team was fantastic. I know fans were like, Florida was more physical. Lightning need to get some basically players that can dish out punishment and maybe
Trade
take
point
punishment.
for a bigger center.
Yeah, like that's kind of the size, all right?
Yeah,
the
right.
size part of it. I didn't really hear anything from Julian that was a point of concern.
I think Glendenning's fair in terms of discussing if he's coming back. You said Perbix, right, is an unrestricted free
Perbix is
agent?
up. That's a decision to be made. So Bolts fan
Yeah.
Syracuse mentioned Crozier. They have Crozier
I think that would be kind
in the
of
organization. He's up too, but again, he's restricted and he hasn't really played in the NHL very long. So, I mean, the Lightning can get him re-signed. That's not really an issue. The Perbix contract, that would be more their choice.
yes.
If they decide to bring him back. The other guys who are up, Atkinson is up. Johansson is up. I'd have to look at the list. Yanni Gord is up. They have to make a decision about him. He was playing hurt. He had a broken thumb. Is that what they had?
I think
for
the
Yanni?
thing- yeah. I think with Yanni, you just have to weigh term and how much you want to give. Because the cap is going up.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to get careless with it.
And some of that extra money, if you want to look at it that way, is going to the Bjorkstrand contract.
Right. Johansson's interesting because I think I would entertain bringing him back if he would want to come back. Because I think you do need two goaltenders, not to the extent some other teams use them, but he's good.
Maybe
He's a
he
good
gets an
goaltender.
opportunity to be a number one somewhere.
Yeah, and that's certainly
Maybe he waits
Maybe.
and sees what the market yields.
I mean, if you're him and you want to start somewhere, yes, you probably want. Let me see what else is out there. But I think if you're the Lightning, you have to be pretty happy with what you've seen from him the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so your goaltender was a real strength. I'm stating the obvious, but I'm stating that because your backup wasn't a weak spot this year.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good. Perbix, we thought had a pretty good year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, the cap going up. What are you willing to give somebody like that who, let's face it, is a 6 or 7 when you know you've got another younger player knocking on the door who potentially can be in that top 6 now? You know, do you want your 7th defenseman in that example partner making $1.8 or $2.4 million who might not be playing all the time? I don't know. But we liked him. I thought he had a good year. I thought he improved. I know people got on him and Littleberg a bit in terms of their play at times. But you know
Perbix
what?
had a bounce back year from last year, which I think
Yeah.
was a step back for him.
It was. So, I don't know. I think the big decision, Julian's not going to tell people one way or the other. He could say he's not planning on a big move, and I told you, if somebody makes you
Right.
an offer, are you going to listen to it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I think he
know.
always does his due diligence. But, you know, there was chatter that John Cooper might leave of his own volition. There was a report, I think, that he might go to Utah, which Utah has a head coach. So I don't
Yeah,
know
right.
where that came from, except that apparently Coop knows the owner of the Utah team, which they still don't have an official nickname. So we'll wait.
So bizarre.
He knows the owner of Hockey Club in Utah.
The owner of, I mean, come on. How
Anyway.
ridiculous is that?
We'll save that for a summer show. Maybe
Right.
we'll do a deep dive into the origin of nicknames, team names. So he said Coop is coming back and is like, I love working with Coop. I think he's one of the best coaches in the game. I think he's the right coach for our team. Like, he put that right to bed. I don't know if he was asked, like, would you entertain thoughts of basically trading Kucherov, which I know there was some chatter about that. And he's like, Kucherov is, I think he's like almost misunderstood sometimes, but I love having him on our team. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here again. I wasn't there when he actually said it, but it was basically to the effect of, yeah, I mean, I'm not trading Nikita Kucherov. So if fans were wondering about that, that's not on Julian's to-do list, either one of them. So I think what we're going to see, I mean, again, you're right. We do not know what the next couple of months might bring. Somebody gets on the phone with Julian. As the line goes, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, right? I mean, who knows, right? But right now, based on what we heard today, I think we're going to see much of the same team back next year, and they're going to look to build on the good things they did this year. What does that mean for Connor Geekie? What does that mean for Max Crozier? What does that mean for other guys in Syracuse? Bolts fan Syracuse mentioned Jack Finley. I mean, who knows? They're going to have to earn a spot, basically. But coming back healthy next year, I think the takeaway for me is that Julian BriseBois likes his team. He likes his team.
I think
they had a bad series against the Panthers.
Did they have a bad series, or are we going to have to look at this a little differently? Because if you believe the Atlantic Division has the best teams in the league, you can't use the excuse, well, we just ran into a really good team in the first round. Because it's happened now 3 straight years. So do you have to do something to get over that hump, whether it's Toronto or Florida? Now, look, we can talk about Ottawa and whether you think they're going to crack that top 3. Maybe they do. Toronto moves on, by the way. I don't think Florida and Toronto are going anywhere.
No, but so every year is different. So I said yesterday, I thought they could have, and maybe they should have beaten the Leafs in 23. Like, the last 2 years were different. They got outplayed by the Panthers in these last 2 series. But do we know that the Florida Panthers at the beginning of next year's playoffs are going to look exactly like this year's team? I mean, everything is fluid, right? At some point, they're going to kind of hit the wall physically, mentally, roster. I mean, they've added Seth Jones's contract. You know how they were able to add Seth Jones's contract? Matthew Tkachuk was on LTIR. Well, Matthew Tkachuk's not going anywhere next year. Ekblad is up. Do they move on from him? Like, the cap is going up, but the Panthers have kind of already spent that money, right?
Sure, right.
Because they acquired Seth Jones. So, I mean, there may be other guys that I'm not thinking of. Bennett. Are they really going to let Sam Bennett walk? I can't see them letting Sam Bennett. I think they find a way to get Bennett re-signed. They already re-signed Verhaeghe. I think he's getting – I should look at Puckpedia before I'm saying any of this. I haven't done a deep dive on the Panthers cap situation, but do we know that the Florida Panthers are going to be the exact same team at this point next year when the Lightning would potentially meet them in a playoff series? We don't. You have to worry about your team. You can't worry about, well, in this one particular matchup, this team has had our number.
Yeah.
And so we have to, like, completely reconfigure our team, not really in the interest of how we want to build our team, to beat this one opponent. But I don't think that that's a wise strategy.
I don't think so either, but the Lightning have also lost 3 straight first-round matchups. So
True.
Is that a trend, and what do you – now, we could have said the Bjorkstrand and Gord were moves to address the lack of scoring or, the depth scoring.
Yeah.
Okay. And just because your team stands pat in the offseason doesn't mean it's not going to change during the season. The trade deadline obviously tinkers with that. I think they made enough improvements, partner, metrically, to figure some things out and be competitive defensively. I think they're going to have an opportunity to move in a couple of new players. And then I think you're hoping that the Hagels and the Sorellis and the Pauls probably continue that ascension as really good players. And then, where are you in the Gonçalves Geekie development? Do you have somebody coming up from Syracuse in addition to Crozier? And I do think the Howard thing is interesting because I think a lot of people.
Yeah, we didn't really
anticipating
talk about that.
He was going to be a guy that could come in
Mm-hmm.
and maybe give you really some punch, but it doesn't look like
Yeah,
that's going to
Jay
happen.
Retcher asked Julian. I think. Well, Jay had the follow-up question. Jay might have had the first question too. So Julian told us at the mid-season gathering that he was really excited about having Howard as a prospect and felt he had taken strides this year. And so, like he said, look, I don't want to talk for Isaac. He's like, I enjoy getting to know him. I enjoy him as a person. I enjoy him as a player. He kind of, put all that out there. And he said basically what Isaac Howard told us was, he wants to find a team that is essentially a better fit. I mean, he's like, I don't want to speak for Isaac, but better fit for him. And I may be changing some of Julian's words, but I'm not changing the spirit of what he said. And then he didn't say anything more. So, look, there are two sides to every story, right? But what that sounds like to me is that Isaac Howard looked at the Lightning and is like, I think I want to maybe go somewhere else for whatever reason. Opportunity.
He wants to play in a top 6 and might not get it.
Yeah,
in Tampa.
go right to the NHL. I mean, who knows if the Lightning typically don't do that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so there are two. So Julian basically said, I think it's unlikely that we're going to sign Howard. So there are two options. They could either trade his rights to another team, but if Howard doesn't want to sign with that team, he can just run out the clock, or he runs out the clock. And the Lightning do get a draft pick as compensation, a second-round pick, if we reach August of 2026, right? It would be next year after Isaac Howard finishes his final collegiate year of eligibility, and then that summer he would become an unrestricted free agent. He could sign anywhere he wants, and the Lightning would get a second-round pick for the next draft. So this is probably a topic for another day, another show. We are awaiting the video of Julian, which we will play for you. Hopefully, it's about 20 after 12. I'm just going to repeat this again. This is an absolute joke that a college player, and not just Isaac Howard, any college player who has not played one game of professional hockey, after having been drafted by a team that has invested time, energy, resources into your development, that player can just be like, I'm good. Sorry, no. I'm going to run out the clock. Now, look, you have to have a certain cachet to ensure that you will get picked up as a free agent. Howard is among a number of players that have done this. Howard apparently is going to do this, but other players have done this. You have to have enough cachet from your college career. But, I mean, this is just way too much juice given to someone who's never played a professional game. That's my opinion. Not everyone agrees with me.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right when we've seen Isaac Howard come to all of these summer camps the Lightning have put on, get tutelage. Lightning's, management making trips to see him in college, meet with him, work on his conditioning. It's just all for nothing right now because the player decided, according to Julian, that, this wasn't the best fit for him.
I'm curious what your take is. It's a little bit different. We've seen this in the NFL over the years where a player says, I'm not playing for you when they draft you.
We had it a little bit with Lindros.
Different.
I mean, it was a way different situation. But remember, the Nordiques drafted Lindros, and he was
I'm
not playing for you.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of the same.
Right.
But the difference is that, I mean, that's how Quebec, Colorado got Peter Forsberg. I mean, so they turned that
they turned that into a very positive
they turned that
thing.
into a very good situation.
But at the time, you never knew, right? I mean, Lindros was supposed to be.
It wasn't a 1-for-1 either. They got a bunch of players from
But like you've
from
seen
the
it,
Flyers.
we've just seen it this year in the NFL draft. You saw it in the early 2000s when Eli Manning was like, "I'm not playing for the Chargers." It's like, okay, well, what the hell? I get it. It doesn't happen often. Let's put it that way, and that's probably why maybe we don't see.
Adam Fox did it.
He did.
So I think he was drafted by Calgary, but he got traded to Carolina. He's like, I'm not playing for Carolina.
And I guess that's the right. I get something for him. Maybe that's the only
but
thing
at
I can
this
say.
point, so
What can you
they
get for
moved him.
Howard?
So they moved him before his final year of college eligibility, and then he basically joined the Rangers right away. I mean, I don't really know how it would work, but let's pick a team. Let's say, Pittsburgh, for example.
Yeah.
So the Lightning might say, hey, Pittsburgh, you're interested in Isaac Howard. We'll trade you his rights and get something in return. There's no guarantee on the Pittsburgh side that Howard will sign with them. They may acquire his rights.
You have to do some talking. There's got to be
That's what I
some,
mean.
Yeah, there's stuff going on behind the scenes.
I guess.
Hey, Kyle Dubas. All right, Crosby's playing on that first line. We have a lot of openings. We think he can play in the top 6.
Yeah.
Agents are probably discussing this.
Maybe.
I think that
maybe
happens.
that happens. Yeah. So that opens the door.
I get
for
it's frustrating because it's frustrating if you're a Lightning fan because you're looking at this and saying this guy had a tremendous college career and he could probably come in for a team that typically doesn't get blue chip prospects like this to come in and potentially help this team out. And we're getting some questions on the power play and changing things up. I mean, is Howard one of those few prospects that could come in and potentially help you out there?
Well, Howard's a lefty. I mean, the Lightning have lefties.
Yeah.
I think the problem, if that's the right word to use to describe a power play that finished 5th, the biggest obstacle to the power play kind of finding a formation, the number one power play, that worked and they just kept, was that they couldn't figure out how to work the righties and the lefties in a way that made the most sense. Now, you're pulling Stamkos off the power play. It was not only, he fit because he was a righty at the left circle. He was one of the most dangerous weapons in the last 15 years, at that spot. And Isaac Howard is a lefty. I mean, we're just talking about him. They have lefties. So Bjorkstrand was kind of, in a way, the answer. He didn't get a lot of time in the first unit because he came in after the deadline. He didn't get on that unit right away. Would they use him at the circle? Would they use him in the bumper? Before he got hurt, he was in the bumper. They may look at that next year.
Yeah, they could. I mean, isn't it funny? I actually don't think they missed Stamkos most of the year. But in that one specific spot on the power play, would Stamkos have made a difference in this series with the threat of what he can do?
Yeah.
And it felt like that was the one instance where maybe you could have used. I'm not saying you wouldn't have done the same thing over. I probably would have. But in terms of what his skill set is and what the Lightning struggled with in the first round, that's just more of an interesting observation. Kevin on X says, how about changes coming to the assistant coaches? I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think there will be changes made there.
There's chatter that Blashill and Halpern may be up for head coaching jobs.
Well, Halpern's been out there for a few years now. I feel like interviewing. Did he interview for Washington not too long ago, right, when that first came up? I feel like he's knocking on the door for sure. But I think even if he wasn't, there was going to be changes. Because I think that's the nature of assistant coaches in today's NHL. Addie on Facebook says, I'm going to miss you guys. I work from home and listen to you every day. Well, that is very, very nice of you. And we're glad you made us part of your day.
Yeah.
Steve said, Julian said he expected no changes to the coaching staff unless they go get head coaching jobs.
Right. He's not going to stand in the way of somebody leaving for a better opportunity.
Julian's like, we're bringing the gang back.
Yes, we are. Well, so what this says, and I think I mentioned this about 15 minutes ago, but Julian is placing way more emphasis in terms of like how he's steering decisions, way more emphasis on what he saw over 6 months and 82 games than what he saw over 5 games against a very specific opponent. Now, to your point, that opponent is not going anywhere. The Florida Panthers are not relocating to the Western Conference.
They're changing.
Where the Lightning are going to see them, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, at some point, if the Lightning want to get back to where they want to get to, they're going to have to figure out a way to get around what the Panthers are throwing at them or have somebody else do it, and then they would have to deal with that team. But that is not really steering the bus on what we're hearing from him. What we're hearing from him is, I really like our team. I think Enzo agrees. Or he's disagreeing. I can't tell.
What do you mean Howard's not coming back?
Yeah, was that a happy exclamation or like, what are you guys talking about?
Enzo wants to make his debut.
Yeah.
What a character.
So what Julian mentioned in his opening statement, number 1 in the league in offense, number 4 in the league in defense during the regular season, number 5 on power play, number 6 on penalty kill. He also said we have a Vezina finalist, Andrei Vasilevsky. We have the leading scorer in the league, Nikita Kucherov. We have a Hart Trophy finalist, Nikita Kucherov. I didn't even know this until we saw the release, but he did. We have a Selke finalist, Cirelli. He said, and I think when the Norris voting comes out, Hedman's not in the top 3. He's like, Hedman will be up there. And basically he's like, I really, really like our team. And clearly he likes the coaching staff. So based on that, unless we see moves to the contrary during the offseason, and some of it may be precipitated by a call he gets. But based on that, I don't know how you can reach any other conclusion than he is bringing the band back, right? Like, that's kind of what it sounds like. And that he is chalking this playoff loss up more to, he's putting more emphasis on, honestly, the injuries, which were legit, and hitting the Panthers at a time where they were just rolling, as opposed to kind of systemic deficiencies on the Lightning side.
So what we're saying is Julian likes the process. He might not like the outcome here. He likes the process he's put together.
But he liked the outcome in the regular season. They had 102 points.
They were very good. I think for us, we have to take a step back and just ask, okay, did you like this team more than the previous 2? Is there any trend that we have?
Yeah.
We'll get at Julian BriseBois that we can take from the last 3 years of being bounced, or was it just a matter of running into a hot team and it was their time?
Well, he may not be answering that specifically, but the last thing I'll say before we play Julian, what we know about Julian is he is not knee-jerk. And I think in his opening statement, when he talks about like how to process winning in the playoffs versus losing in the playoffs, you're going to understand what I mean, that he is very, very measured. And on that note, we can go ahead and play Julian.
Let's get to him, Steve.
All right, well, I'll start by congratulating the Florida Panthers on winning the series. Once again this year, they have an excellent hockey team. I thought they played great. They managed the series and the games within the series really well. They never shot themselves in the foot, and they deserve to win. With regards to our team, it's always disappointing when we're eliminated because we lost in the first round, and because it's the 3rd year in a row that we lose in the first round. Unfortunately, it's going to obscure how good of a hockey team we have. The history is written by the victors, and when you win, you are perceived as being better than you actually are, and when you lose, you are perceived as being worse than you actually are. But the reality is that we have one heck of a great hockey team. Like, we have a Vezina Trophy finalist goaltender. We have a scoring champ / Hart Trophy finalist. We have a Selke finalist and could easily have had 2. I think when the voting results are revealed, I would expect that Victor Hedman will have finished 4th or 5th in voting for the Norris. We have 4 35 goal scorers, 7 20 goal scorers, the 3rd highest scoring defenseman group, an outstanding head coach, an outstanding coaching staff. That's the makeup of a really good hockey team. We finished 1st in the league in goals for, 4th in goals against, 5th on the power play, and 6th on the penalty kill. Like, in the 20-season history of the salary cap era, only 8 teams can say they finished in the top 6 of those 4 categories within the same season. 5 of those 8 teams won the President's Trophy for having the best regular season. And of those 8 teams, 4 lost out in the first round of the playoffs. 3 lost out in the second round of the playoffs. 1 made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. None of them won the Stanley Cup. Like, it's really hard to win a championship. You need a really good hockey team, but you also need breaks along the way. And the reality is that only one team gets to lift the trophy at the end of the season. And I think in our business, it's important for us to be ambitious with our goals, but also realistic with our expectations. we are striving and trying to win the Stanley Cup every year here. And I foresee that being the case for many years to come. But the reality is that even with having a great hockey team, even with having a legitimate Stanley Cup contending team year in, year out, most seasons will end in disappointment. It's just, you need breaks along the way. But first, you need a really good hockey team, and we have a really good hockey team, and we're gonna have a really good hockey team again next year. I really enjoyed this season's team. I really enjoyed how they played. I enjoyed how they competed. Almost everyone's under contract and coming back. We have some young players now that are pushing to play a bigger role on the team, and the future is bright for our organization. I would say I'm excited about our future. It's significantly more so today than I was a year ago. Right now, on the one hand, I'm disappointed that our season's over, but I'm also really excited for next season to start and for us to chase a championship again next year. Eric?
With the way the current playoff format is set up, do you almost have to kind of build a team to beat the division teams?
Well, you don't know who you're going to play. Up till the last week of the season, we weren't sure where we're going to end up. We weren't sure where the other teams are going to end up. So you have to build the best team possible that has diversity in how it can play. And I think we had all the pieces. But so does Florida. So do a number of other teams. And then it's who's healthy, who plays well at the right time, who makes the most of their breaks. A lot goes into it. But I think you're alluding to, should we build a team to play Florida? What if we don't play Florida? Yeah.
You talked about the improvement that you guys made from last year to this year, and I think the guys all talked about how they felt more equipped to go on a deep run. Last year you were focused on getting better defensively, and you were very honest about that. Is there anything this year going into the offseason that you're looking at?
I think, I just ran through a bunch of numbers in my introductory statement. If we match those numbers next year, I'm going to be ecstatic. It's really hard. So there's not one area of focus per se. We also haven't had time yet to debrief on the season. When I look at our underlying numbers, they're pretty good in every category. So I wouldn't say that there's something jumping out at me like last season. We definitely need to be better defensively, and we definitely needed to be better 5-on-5. Right now, I can't say that there's something that's jumping out at me. I would hope that next season our play replicates this season. I'll be really happy.
Julian, we already heard about a couple guys maybe being injured that we didn't know about. Do you have a list of those?
Yeah, I have a list here. I'll read it off because I'm not a doctor. I'll start with Oliver Bjorkstrand. He suffered a left thigh acute compartment syndrome. He was injured in a game here on April 11th. I would like to highlight the fine work of Dr. Sean Lannon, who was our covering orthopedic physician that night. So I don't remember if it was a shot or a hit that injured Oliver, but he finished the game and left the rink a little stiff, and then over the course of the night, his leg was swelling, and Dr. Lannon made a house call at 2 a.m., saw how serious the injury was, or the situation was, with potentially bleeding in his leg, rushed him to the ER, and they performed surgery on him in the middle of the night. If they hadn't acted that quickly, the injury, the rehab would have been considerably more serious, but because of Dr. Lannon's quick and prompt and over and above service that he provided Oliver that night, he was able to limit the damage, and now we expect Oliver to make a full recovery. So that's one. 2, Anthony Cirelli, right knee, grade 2 MCL sprain, suffered early in game 1 here. He should be fine after a few weeks of recovery. Luke Glendenning had a right shoulder AC joint separation, injured in the game during April 9th. That's why he missed a few games. Gutted it out to play during the playoffs. Yanni Gourde broke a finger during game 1 of this series. Brendan Hagel suffered a concussion. You all saw that. Victor Hedman broke his foot during game 4. Nikita Kucherov had a left hand extensor injury he suffered on February 25th. Again, our AT team, our athletic therapist, did a great job managing him and getting him through all these games. And Nick Paul has a tear in his left wrist that he will see doctors about this week to see what next steps are for him. But we would expect all of these players to be healthy and back for the start of next season.
How much do you think in particular, not having Oliver available for the entire series, and then, you lost Brandon for the one game and then the second game, like that, how much
They
does that
add up,
affect?
right? One injury, we have to be able to overcome 2, 3, but now game one, Bjorkstrand's not there. Sorelli's not there for most of the game, he's not there. Gord's got a broken hand. He's trying to figure out during the game. Like, they add up. Then we have a game where Hagel barely plays. There's a game where he's suspended. There's another game where he barely plays. They all add up. But that being said, I am convinced Florida has a bunch of injuries too. Their guys are playing through stuff. Some is somewhat apparent, I would think, if you're watching them play. That's part of what you have to overcome to win a championship. It's not an excuse for not winning that series. It's just part of what you need to be able to overcome.
Eric had mentioned he had something happen to him.
Yeah, he has a left knee, or one of his knees, contusion that he suffered from a hit in game one. He was able to play, and I thought he played really well. But yes, he has an issue that should resolve itself.
Julian Vazzy was pretty down today, and he's so honest and open during times like this. And he spoke about being more resilient and being more, ton of attention to detail. How do you kind of look at the entire group, despite of all the fantastic numbers in the regular season, and realize that, all right, what can we do in the postseason to make sure that that type of team comes out at that time?
We'll have a chance to debrief. Like, Vazzy's numbers, the first game, we barely gave up anything. They scored 3 goals that we have as less than 10% odds of going in, and I can't blame Vazzy on any of them. It's just pucks bouncing. To me, the most random bounce of the series happened maybe at the most inopportune time, and it's Seth Jones's goal in Game 4. We are playing pretty well during this series. We're down 2-1, but we're playing pretty well. We didn't give up anything the first 2 games, lost both. Game 3 is actually the game we gave up the most scoring. Some of that is score effect, but gave up the most scoring chances, but we find a way to win that game. Game 4, everything is going against us, but we gut it out and we find a way to take a 2-1 lead. And now we are on our way for what I'm watching again, going, this is going to be the gutsiest win of the 15 years I've been here. It's unreal how we're overcoming everything and playing great. There's a 16-minute stretch. I think they have 1 shot. And we're giving them nothing, and we're controlling play the way we're controlling the game the way we want to control the game. We have a 30-second where we're not playing really well. They scored the second goal. Okay, it's 2-2. Still, everything's under control. Let's get the next goal. Seth Jones takes a shot. In his shooting lane is Ryan McDonough, arguably the best shot blocker in the game. He's in position. He's square. If that puck is a millimeter lower, it hits his blade. If it's a millimeter higher, it hits his boot. Either way, it ends up in front of him. It goes through the holder of his blade. It's almost impossible for the puck to fit there. So now Vazzy's expecting a shot to go a certain angle. Not only is it not coming from Seth Jones anymore, it's coming through a skate as a butterfly and goes in the net. Now they're up 3-2. That's a fluky goal. And along the way, you need some of those. It was still a 2-2 game. We were down 2-1. Doesn't mean we would have won the series. But when you catch a break like that, it can go a long way. So I thought Vazzy was really good. I think he had a .936 save percentage, games 2, 3, 4. And some of the goals that went in were fluky goals. But that's part of what you have to do in the playoffs. You have to get pucks and bodies to the net, and sometimes they go in. You have to create your luck too.
Julian, Kiki talked about how much it benefited him to go to Syracuse and come back up. And Gage had a great series. I think he had 4 points. So just curious, what your perspective is on some of those younger guys that were able to step in big time moments.
Yeah, kudos. Connor Geekie has an unreal mindset. I am so impressed with his maturity, his introspection. He has the right balance of confidence and humility. that's why I know he's going to play and he's going to help us for many years. He went down with a great attitude, worked his butt off there with the great coaching staff that we have there, Joel Bouchard and our development people, put in the work, and you could see his game come back to life while he was there. I saw the game last night. Unfortunately, Syracuse lost, and they're now eliminated. He played really well, generated some chances, and was competing really hard. Again, he has unreal attitude, and I thought that was very beneficial for him. He was really good in the last game here too. You're playing as a 20-year-old going up against the Stanley Cup winning champs in a playoff environment in the middle of this rivalry. It's a big ask, and I thought he handled it marvelously. Gage Goncalves, I think of all of our players, has showed the most growth in a year by a significant margin. After he came back from being assigned Syracuse the second time, I think he was a transformed player. Playmaking, defensive reliability, forechecking, compete, physicality. He raised everything to a really nice NHL level, and he's turning himself into an NHL player. And I think he's 24. That bodes well for us as well to have those two young guys. And then Lilleberg's only 23. He already has 2 playoff runs, or at least 2 playoff series under his belt. JJ Moser, I think, is 24. We have those young guys, and we have others coming in Syracuse that are going to be pushing for a roster spot next fall. We haven't had that in a while, and that's exciting as an organization because now we have guys who can add depth and do so not just in the short term, but for many years to come.
Julian, just looking forward to where's the roster in the offseason. Gord's a free agent.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a few other free agents. McDonough is entering the last year of his contract. Where you kind of sit on maybe some of those kind of topics as you kind of go into it.
We're going to go through all of those. All the players whose contracts are up this season, I called their agents yesterday just to kind of give them hey, we're aware, we're on it. Let us get through our internal meetings, one-on-one meetings with the players. At the time, I didn't know if Syracuse was going to extend their season, but we're going to get to all of them. Next week, we're going to have some meeting with the coaches as well, kind of debrief on the season, on the series, get everyone's thoughts. We have pro meetings coming up. We're going to do everything we can to have as strong a roster as possible. All the guys that are here I like, and there's a possibility for all of them to come back. Odds of them all coming back are small. Some of those guys are unrestricted free agents and might want the opportunity to go to a different organization where they might be able to play a bigger role. So we'll see.
On the topic of young players, a lot of people still interested where you stand with Isaac Howard, and is there a chance that still sign him, or is that kind of?
Well, I would say, I really like Isaac. He's a likable player and a likable young man, and I've enjoyed all my interactions with him, including throughout the process of this off season. He had an unreal season. He won a Hobie Baker, well deserved. He's going to the World Championships now for Team USA. I'll be interested in seeing him play there. The reality is we haven't been able to come to an agreement that is mutually acceptable. If that doesn't change, he will become a free agent on August 15th of 2026. And if that were the case, we're going to receive a compensatory second-round pick in the 2027 draft. When I chatted with Isaac, he was really candid, and I appreciated his honesty, and I thanked him for his honesty. He values the opportunity to choose the club that he believes is the best fit for him. And I won't speak for him, but he values that. And right now, I would say it's unlikely that we will sign him. So the scenarios are either he gets traded prior to August 15th of 26, or he goes to free agency on August 15th of 26. Those are the two likeliest scenarios.
Was that a little bit of a surprise, Julian? Because I know when we spoke in the middle
A
of the
little
season,
bit, yes.
there was some optimism.
Yeah, because I had regular communication with him and his agent throughout the years, and our development staff, JP Cote in particular, he spends a lot of time with all of our prospects. So it's always a possibility, but yeah, it was a surprise.
A little off topic, but Max Grosjev, he was playing some defense down at Syracuse. Like, what's kind of the idea with him moving forward?
Now, kudos to Joel Bouchard. Like he works with those guys every day. He sees them. He's on the ice during practice, and obviously goes through a tremendous amount of film of our players. He saw the potential for Max to maybe be a better NHL defenseman than NHL forward, and then Max was suspended for a period of time. And we decided to try it for, like, he's not going to play games anyway. Let's try him at D, see how he looks in practice. He looked really good. He showed promise. So we decided to put him in games, and he's looked really good in games, even last night again. And he's excited about playing D now, and he's excited about how this might increase his odds of reaching his goal of playing in the NHL. So that's kudos to Joel and his staff there. And to Max for buying in and being excited about the opportunity. Like, he's looked really good on D. He's been noticeably more productive as a defenseman than he was as a forward.
And you anticipate any changes to the coaching staff?
We're not planning any changes. Coop will be back. As for the assistants, the reality is there are 8 vacancies right now for head coaching positions in the NHL. We have really good people in our organization. I won't be shocked if some of them are offered positions as head coaches somewhere else. And if that's the case, we're never going to hold someone back. If that's what they want to do, we'll support them. But as of now, we're expecting everyone to be back unless someone gets a promotion somewhere else.
Julian, I know that we asked last year about Cooper's contract, going into what we thought was his last year's contract.
Cooper will be back next year. Cooper will be back because, A, he's an outstanding coach. 2, more importantly, he's the best coach for this job. 3, I really enjoy working with him. I am appreciative and grateful for our partnership, and I expect it to go on for many years to come, regardless of how many years he's got left on his contract. When this contract ends, my expectation is he's going to sign another one, and he's going to be here for a while.
Is his term beyond next year?
I don't want to get into the term because, it's almost I think it's a false narrative. The idea, what's important is who the coach is and what their job security is. I understand that question. That's relevant for our fans. That's relevant for our players. It's relevant for our organization. I'm not worried about John Cooper's job security, nor should he be. It's a false narrative to tie whether it's a head coach or a GM's contract to their job security, because it has nothing to do with job security. It's all about financial security, because most people, head coaches or GMs that get fired, have term on their deal. And usually when you go to for lack of a better term, if you play out your contract as a GM or head coach, usually you sign an extension anyway. So Coop will be back next year, and I expect beyond.
Just with Nikita Kucherov, just 2 outstanding regular seasons back to back, but in the playoffs, what is it about Florida that has given him some fits there these past 2 series?
Well, I think first of all, what Nikita Kucherov does in the NHL, he makes it look really easy. It's the level of difficulty is incredibly high. That's why no one else plays like him. That's why no one else produces like he does. And I said earlier, history is written by the victors. We're going to remember, because that's the case, and Florida won the series, we're going to remember Sergei Bobrovsky's saves, a bunch of saves in the second period of the last game, instead of Vasilevsky's phenomenal saves in the first period. We're going to remember the performance of their forwards instead of the performance of our forwards. Kuch still had 4 points. He was involved in a bunch of scoring chances. I think game 2, the game it was 1-0 game at the point with 30 seconds to go. Kuch is in the corner, and he does one of these only Kuch can make plays off the wall to the slot to Pointer. If that puck goes in, the game's tied, and Coop's added to his legend. Kudos to Sam Bennett. He came back at the last second. He got a piece of Pointer's stick, but the puck's on his blade. If we win the series, everyone's talking about Kuch's assist to Gensel at the start of the third period of game 3. Last game, he, again, one of those out of the corner. There's 6 guys, feels like there's 6 guys on him. Obviously, there can only be 5, but he puts it on the tape of Pointer in the slot again. It didn't go in this year. Just didn't go in this year. And I remember after one of the games, Coop is watching a video on the plane, and he's going, "It's unreal all the great plays that Cooch did tonight." And no one's going to see him because no one's paying attention. Like, I think it comes with being a superstar. That the expectations are what they are. They're sometimes unrealistic. He did a lot of good things for us, and he helped us win this series. And I know because the coaches went out of their way to mention how good he was on the bench, how positive he was on days off, how he's one of the leaders that was selling what we needed to get our players to buy for us to be successful. Cooch is a genius, and like many geniuses, he's sometimes misunderstood. But I am ecstatic that he's on our team, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
And then my last question is, a lot of fans and everybody bringing up sort of the physicality of the series. Obviously, there were a pair of suspensions, but just for you, how do you feel about this team handling the physicality in this series, the forecheck? Just what are your thoughts on it?
You know, every playoff series is physical. I don't believe that this one was any more physical than the others, to be honest. I'll leave it at that.
I hope our audience was able to
Yeah.
take that all in. But I
That
thought
was
pretty candid.
that was way better said than I tried to say it.
What did you take from just bullet points for you on it? Really likes the team. I mean, that's,
So the only part that I was like,
yeah.
I didn't feel they defended well in game one and gave up almost nothing. Now, they only gave up 16 shots, but Julian has his own staff looking at it, and he's like, 3 of these goals, there's only 10% chance that they go in. Fair enough. My opinion doesn't really matter.
Right.
But everything else, I was like, okay, well, what he's saying makes a lot of sense. I think I hadn't heard the whole thing. I had heard bits and pieces, but he was asked the question about basically, do you build a team to beat Florida based on what Florida does well? And he's like, well, what if we don't play Florida?
Right.
Which is fair, right?
Sure.
That's a fair point. And I think you have to have the versatility to play a lot of different ways. He likes his team.
He does.
He acknowledged that Florida has some injuries too, but there's no, I mean, he kind of spelled it out, how these injuries may have adversely affected what the Lightning were trying to do. And he is absolutely right about game 4. I really liked how the Lightning defended in game 4. They had up until 4 minutes left in the third period, they'd had one breakdown.
Yeah.
Significant breakdown.
Right.
And Lundell scored. Other than that, they were playing a great third period, protecting a 2-1 lead. And, I mean, we talked about it at the time, 10 forwards. May have played a role because Hagel got knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
But that's the way the cookie crumbles. And I actually didn't know the puck went through McDonough's, like, the opening.
Right.
You know, basically the blade of the stick is attached to the boot. There's a hole there above the blade where the plastic is. The puck went through there. I didn't know that. So when they say the puck has eyes, that really is the definition of that.
That's true.
And that caused that deflection to go in.
I thought he was pretty honest about Isaac Howard, too. That was an interesting...
Yeah. I mean, did I frame it well? That
Yeah.
It seems like Howard is like, I want to look elsewhere.
That's it.
Basically.
That's it. That's more on him than the Lightning. So I thought pretty honest conversations there. And coaching staff, he thinks will stay in place.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked about that. I think he feels pretty good about it. And
he said if we have the same numbers at the end of next year's regular season that we had at the end of this year's regular season, he said, I will be ecstatic.
yes.
So again, he likes his team.
Lightboard said resting the Stars at the end of the regular season to help prep for the playoffs would have been a nice option too. Keyword there.
They didn't have the
option.
cap room to be able to do that.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. So that's where it stands. I'm curious throughout the summer what our audience will take from this exit.
He
interview.
mentioned Gonçalves too. I mean, I'm okay. If this is our last show, we can go a little
Yeah.
over an hour because we had the Julian thing
Right.
ready when it was ready. So, I mean, if we played this at the start of the show, we would have had more time to digest it. But, I mean, what he said about Gage Gonçalves kind of echoes what a lot of people have said, including us on the show, which is like he had a transformational year. Now he has to build on it or at least maintain this level at the start of next year, but there's no reason to believe that he won't. I guess I'm wondering, like, Lightning fans, particularly those that were feeling discouraged / grumpy at the end of the series and feeling that significant changes needed to be made. Do you change your opinion a little bit after hearing what Julian had to say? By the way, Jack Adams finalist just came through. No John Cooper in the top 3. I may be the lone vote for Cooper first, but it was Arneal, Carberry, and Marty St. Louis.
I mean,
Marty did a good
fine.
job. He got the Canadians in the playoffs. They had a great finish. But what did Coop say? There have only been 8 teams in the last 20 years with the setup of the salary cap that did what the Lightning did.
Yeah, that's what Julian said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, people are going to look at the full voting and go like, who's the knucklehead who put John Cooper first? It was me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
Maybe there'll be another vote for
I don't-
Coop.
I don't
He'll probably
disagree.
get some votes. I don't know if
Yeah.
other people will put him first.
And, look, again, the injury thing is hard to. That's an X factor in the playoffs. We talked about this before. Not only guys playing injured, but, Hagel
Yeah.
missing time, Sorelli missing time, and he got into that.
Yeah.
Gore trying to figure out how to play with a broken wrist.
Broken finger, I think
Or
it was.
finger,
But
was
still,
that
I mean, you're
yeah.
holding the stick. Affects how you
Heady.
hold the stick.
Heady with a
Broken
what did he have?
foot,
I mean,
game
all right.
4, which is why. So that explains the Crozier recall. We were
That's it.
wondering what was
That's
going
it.
on there, and Hedman
Right.
didn't participate in the skate before game 5, but they had an idea that he could play.
Should we take a few more questions? 'Cause
Yeah.
we-
Well, I mean, I kind of stopped what I was saying when we got the news about the Jack Adams, but I'm wondering if Lightning fans feel any differently, if they were feeling less optimistic maybe before hearing Julian and more optimistic after hearing Julian, because Julian is like, I'm already excited for next season to start.
Well, he's like, look, if we do the same things we did this year for next year, we're going to be in a good spot. I mean, Kevin on X says, what are they going to do about the left side of the power play?
Well, they're going to have a healthy Oliver Bjorkstrand. They'll have 2 righties at forward that they can use, Point and Bjorkstrand, for the first unit. That's a simple answer. Where they put them, I mean, they've tried one at the circle and one at the bumper and then flipped them. That may be a little bit of a work in progress. Remember, Bjorkstrand's going to be with the Lightning from training camp.
I mean, he's got to
And working with these units through camp, through the preseason, like that's going to help him.
Connor says, with the Howard news, do you think it would be harder to trade him now that it's known he wants to pick the team that's best fit for him?
That's what we were talking about. You think that they may have a gentleman's agreement worked out ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a team and you want to get him acclimated to everything that goes on in an organization, we know how if it's a second round pick, you know how that can be. I mean, those are hit or
Right.
miss.
That's if they
know?
run out the clock.
If they run out the clock.
But let's use the Pittsburgh example again. Let's say Kyle Dubas and Julian BriseBois talk. Dubas is like,
You're going to
we
play
have
in the top
assurances
9.
Howard is
Yes.
signing with us.
Yes.
If that's the case, then yes, you should be able to get something substantial in return.
What's substantial? I think that's the question.
Well, it should be. I mean, if letting the clock run out means you get a second round pick, it should be more than a second round pick, right?
Second and a 6th. Could be a player, too. I mean, that's where you
Isaac
can get
Howard
creative.
is a first round pick.
Yeah.
You should get a first round pick if you're trading him. And his stock has risen since he was drafted based on what he's done in college.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. Noel
If the
Achari. You don't think if they
uncertainty-
throw Noel Achari in there?
Well, but if the uncertainty is taken away,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm saying.
Chris on YouTube says, I think the third pair D and a couple of bottom six need changes. Otherwise, I agree with JBB. I think that's fair.
Well, and one of those bottom six guys is a UFA. And what he said was, some of our UFAs may want to go somewhere else for more playing time. We'll see.
Cam Atkinson does, I would think.
Well, I think he's still going to be paid by the Flyers for at least one more year.
But he's a
I don't
veteran.
know.
He wants to play.
Yeah, he probably does want to play, but what's out there for him? Last year he played more than he did this year.
Right. Alex on X says, yes, I feel more optimistic after hearing Julian.
Yeah.
FKA322 on YouTube, I think if we don't make changes, we can expect more first-round exits. Good regular season team, but not built for playoff success. And that's going to be the narrative, partner.
Yeah,
whether we like it or not.
Now it is.
Because of the last 3 exits.
Yeah, prior to that, it was they're just okay in the regular season, but they are a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. Look, there may be some truth to that. I don't have the answer. I will refer back, though, to what Julian said, where this is true, whether you're talking about sports or war or whatever. You can read the history books. History is written by the winners, right? I mean, it is. And it's hard to put a positive spin on a first-round exit. But there is some nuance there. I think the Panthers deserve to win the series. I thought they outplayed the Lightning. But like some of the plays that he talked about, the near misses that Kucherov had that honestly, I don't even remember a lot of them. But they're watching on video and they're seeing this is a near miss. This is a near miss. He made this play. I mean, when you're not a goal scorer, Kucherov can score, but he's more of a facilitator. You are dependent on the guy you were giving the puck to, that player finishes. And sometimes that player is unable to finish. The goalie makes the save, player misses the net. Sometimes the other team makes a play. Like you mentioned, Bennett got his stick on points opportunity there at the end of game 2. So, look, I don't know that I can disagree with the fan. I'm not going to say I disagree with the fan. I'm not going to say I agree with the fan either. I'm kind of playing it down the middle, which is to say I don't know. I don't know if they are a great regular season team that can't win in the playoffs. That's going to be the narrative as long as the results tell us that.
Correct.
But I can tell you this, they were a better regular season team this year than they were the previous year. And I do believe they were better equipped to have a deep playoff run.
They just ran into a really good team.
And they had significant injuries that affected their ability to go deep, honestly. And some key plays in the series did go against them. Some of those were made by the Panthers. Some of them were a little unlucky.
Andrew on Facebook says, I'm glad that Julian is such a methodical thinker, not a knee-jerk reaction guy, unlike many fans and some people in the local media.
Well, there are some GMs who are a little bit more knee-jerk, but usually those GMs don't necessarily stay in that position. I think it's an important quality to have, that you are rational and thorough. But Julian is rational, thorough, but also not timid.
Right.
Like he is bold about making moves when he feels those moves are necessary. He is just not knee jerk.
And this is where the analytics, I think, have changed how GMs make decisions too, because the numbers can bear it out and say, look, you guys were really good and maybe just unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that prevents you from making those knee jerk reactions a little bit more. Matt says, guys, going to miss you during the offseason. Got an alarm to let me know when all are coming on. I'm hopeful for next year. Had some mad calls. Just couldn't get pucks in nets, but there's always next year. Looking forward to more geeky.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, Matt.
Look, I kind of asked the overriding question, like, for these Lightning fans to listen to the show, you're obviously dedicated Lightning fans. The casual Lightning fans may not be spending their lunch hour with us or after the fact. So if you have joined us, we appreciate it. But you are beyond a surface fan if you are listening to our analysis and our opinions and the guests that we bring on. So the question is like, why are you a fan?
Yeah.
Are you a fan? Steve said the casual fan should be listening to us.
Good
All right,
point,
I'm not a
Steve.
marketing guy. That was probably the wrong thing for me to say.
Yeah.
All right, even the casual fans. But like for the people that are spending this time with us, like what are you getting out of following your team? Whether it's just the Lightning or the Lightning and other teams, the Bucks, the Rays, other teams that you just happen to like. Is it a be all end all that they need to win the championship? As Julian said, only one team wins the championship. Of the 16 teams that make the playoffs, I'll say the other 16 teams on some level, their season does end in disappointment because they don't make the playoffs. But for the 15 teams that don't win the Stanley Cup, with rare exception, Ottawa is very disappointed, but Ottawa also feeling buoyed by a big improvement this year, and they were competitive in that series. So that is more of a mixed feeling. But generally, of the 15 teams that make the playoffs that have their season end with a loss, those teams and the fans of those teams are disappointed. Comes with the territory. So why are you following this team? Hopefully you're following this team because you enjoy the roller coaster ride, right? I mean, as you have often said, Greg, the beauty of sports is it's unscripted, unpredictable.
It is unpredictable.
And there's not a lot. Maybe there is. I don't know. I don't want to make broad generalizations. But there is a fair amount in life that is not predictable. Sports, there's a fair amount of life that is predictable is what I'm saying. Sports is something where we don't know necessarily what's going to happen. Like, I think the Panthers look great. To me, they look like a team that is going to be very, very hard to beat. But they might get beat. We don't know. It is unscripted. Maybe they start making critical mistakes. Maybe the bounces start going against them. Maybe the puck goes through Forsling's skate hole on the plastic and like flutters past Bobrovsky. Maybe that happens in the next series. Who knows? That's the beauty of sports. Sorry, enough with the existential questions of life.
Well, Karen says, wouldn't miss a lunchtime with Dave and Greg. I've learned so much from both of you. Thank you. Karen, we appreciate you chiming in, and we're very happy that you found us here and continue to listen on the station because it is growing, and we are very excited about that. Trey says, maybe we'll end on this, partner. Not sure what the schedule is for Lightning Power Lunch with the season over. What's a prediction you've made, internal or external, this past season, or 24-25, that you were exactly right on, or one you were completely wrong on? Great show, guys. Well, we didn't really make predictions at the beginning of the year.
I don't think we did.
I'll say this. I think, if you listen to the show, you and I were I think we had a pretty good feel that this team needed to upgrade their depth offensively. I think we were out in front of that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Might
You
have
were
been in January.
You were sooner to that than I was.
Maybe
but
January.
I came around.
It might have been even before then, though. I think you and I were kind of like, you know what? I like their back end. I think it's pretty good, but I think they need some depth. And maybe the trade deadline answered that question. I will say this. I think at the beginning of the year, you were spot on about goals allowed per game. You nailed that.
I didn't know if it would happen, but I believe that they had it in
You felt
them
pretty good
to do it.
Yeah, you felt that was a really good prediction. So maybe those were a couple. I can't think of a prediction.
Yeah.
We
so
had
I'll,
that was
I'll
like
give you one
completely
thing
off.
that I'm glad that it came about, where I was like, I hope this happens, and it did. And I'll give you one thing where I'm like kind of surprised that it happened. So both are good. It's just one, I'm very pleasantly surprised. I guess I'm I'm pleasantly surprised, but one, I probably had an expectation that this could happen more than the other. So the one that I hoped would happen and I thought might happen was Chernak getting back to the level that we had seen him with McDonough the first time. That Chernak was back this year. You never know. As you have pointed out, Chernak has been injured a lot. He blocks shots. I mean, it's just the way he plays. He's had to deal with injuries the last couple of years, but there's no question he had a terrific season. And I think McDonough had a lot to do with that. I mean, maybe I would add in, like, would McDonough really help them overall defensively? And the answer to that is yes. So that's the one that I was like, I hope this happens. It happened. The one that I didn't see coming was the Gonçalves evolution. I mean, we were kind of hoping that he would make the NHL this year. I liked him last year in the couple of games that we saw him play. And certainly when he went back to Syracuse for the second time, because he started the year in Syracuse this year, we could not have predicted that he would be the guy that he was by the end of the year. And Julian, as we mentioned him specifically as a guy who is like thoroughly blossomed. Julian spelled it out if you heard his press conference. But that's one that it's not really a prediction, but it's one where I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this the same guy?
That's fair. We said things like Norris Trophy, does McDonough get some votes? That was kind of like he should, but whether he does or not. We were pretty outspoken about the Four Nations tournament, me more than others. I know that's not Lightning related, although there were Lightning players in it, whether that was good or bad. For the game, we've got into Vast, see how many starts should he have towards the end. I mean, we did things like that you'd have to go back and tally that up to see where we were.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, a couple of those predictions are the ones that I mentioned to you, partner, that stood out the most. But we usually don't say at the beginning of the year the Lightning are going to be a playoff team and they're going to win a championship. I think that goes in to everything, and then from there. The trade deadline's always fun because are they going to make a big move? I would quantify what they did this year as a big move, and Julian has been pretty consistent with that, and I think it's been that way. Well, partner, we have decided, I think, if there are some big things that do happen in the off season, we will hop on and do a show.
Yes.
So, if there's a big move, if something happens.
Free agency. We had one last year because we had the confluence of the Sergachev trade, Stamkos not re-signing, Gensel signing. We did one after all that happened.
So I think we're going to do that. But outside of that, we're going to take some time off, decompress a little bit, and, recharge those batteries because it is a 1 year for sure. But this year has been incredible with the amount of people that have found this show now. We're on multiple platforms, which has helped, but it has grown tremendously. I know Steve was talking to us about it.
And the Lightning have helped greatly in that regard.
And so we're glad.
Making the show accessible.
Yeah. We're glad more and more people are finding this as their outlet for hockey. And you and I have been doing this for how many years now together? We're going on.
Yeah, well, we've been friends prior to that because you were in the booth, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing the radio pregame? 2015? 16?
So 2016, yeah.
16, 17 was
So
your
we've been
first
in the
year.
booth together for almost, a decade?
Yeah. And so
Doing
a lot of
the
the
show.
conversations that we have, see, I was going to say this, Steve, but a lot of the conversations that you and I have on the show, we were having those conversations just in the booth, right? But yeah, it was during the pause before play resumed in the bubble that we started. We had kind of a duct tape put together type programming, and then as we got ready for the bubble, you and I did a show together.
Yep.
And you can't separate us since.
No, we enjoy it. We enjoy
we do very
the good
much.
hockey talk. We get along on and off the air, which makes it.
I hope you have a great summer with the family. I may or may not see you around town. We don't really live close to one another.
Yeah.
we see
should
each
all
other
try to get
usually
together.
this
I know.
way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
I will mention that I have a few projects planned this summer. And one was one that a lot of people had asked me about. A lot of people asked me about this, and I'm like, I had no idea even what would go into it. But I've been asked to do an audio version of Blind Squirrel. So I don't know how long it takes to actually do that, but I have a microphone and I have a computer, and apparently that's really all you need. So Steve may give me some guidance on the technical side, but that's going to be a summer project. So for those of you who are like, I don't really like reading books, but I listen in the car a lot to audiobooks, that's going to be
No excuse
one of
now.
my summer projects. Well, there's always an excuse.
No excuse now.
Like anybody who invests the time
Hey.
to read or in the future listen, I am very appreciative.
Listen, this has been a big year for you. You got your book out.
Yeah.
That is like a lot of people talk about it. You did it. had a lot of success doing it. Still to come, you know, more people purchasing it, but that has to feel really good.
Yeah, and I know we're going over here, but actually my next challenge, so I went to a book fair last night at Oxford Exchange because the Lightning got eliminated. So Mike Neighbors, who used to work for the Lightning many years ago, my first year was the 1 year he spent with the Lightning. We've been friends ever since. So he wrote a book, nonfiction, kind of like career strength, right? Don't Quit Pivot is the name of it. So he reached out to me. He's like, are you doing this Oxford Exchange book fair? I'm like, what are you even talking about? I don't know anything about it. And I was like, oh, okay, it's Thursday. Well, I hope I'm going to be traveling with the Lightning, but if not, I'll see if I can get there. So I went there. And what I found out is there are a lot of people in the Tampa Bay area who have no idea that I've written a book. That's just, there's a lot out there, right?
There's a lot of
everybody,
people, right?
A lot of people went to the Oxford Exchange book fair, don't really know much about the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they were like, oh, okay. So, you know, I talked to some people about the book. But kind of the next step for me is figuring out a way, and you and I have had conversations about this, figuring out a way to kind of tap people on the shoulder who really are interested in hockey but are not in this market.
Right.
And they may be interested in reading a story like this. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, there's just so much out there. It's difficult to get people's attention, but it's kind of one of the
project.
One of the flares I send up in the air, and see if I can get people to talk about it outside the market. So we'll see.
Keep doing it.
But I'm very appreciative. Again, I'm very appreciative of the people who have spent the time to read it, and a lot of them have gotten back to me and told me how much they connected with it, and all that is wonderful.
It is very true.
So I'm very appreciative,
and you should be very proud of that. Partner, we'll do it again soon. Don't know when,
well,
but we'll do it again
not as soon as we would like, but
That's
yes,
true.
unless there's some
At
breaking
some point.
news, we'll be back, and we'll notify everyone that we have a show, a pop-up show coming if there is need for one during the summer.
For sure. All right, partner. Great job. As
you
always,
too.
blast. Thanks to Steve Ersnick, who did all the work behind the scenes, getting us on the air. We appreciate his good work and all of his efforts. Jared Johnson as well, our broadcast assistant, everybody who helped us throughout, all our guests, and, of course, you, the fans who make this show, and we appreciate everything. You've been listening to Power Lunch one last time right here on Lightning Radio.